here we are on day 2 of our lake sunset watercolor. We are going to add a few elements, and you have the opportunity to do a second layer on some of the background elements as well. So we're going to be adding a boat, and we're going to be adding some texture in the water and maybe some clouds, and then also a background landscape in this area. So we're going to start with our B pencil, drawing our boat so that we know where that is. Now you can place this boat in a lot of different places. It would look really cool here in front of the sun. I'm going to put mine over to the side so that it is kind of complementing the sun, but it's going to have two main elements, and one of them is going to be the shape of the boat itself in the water, and that is going to be kind of like a hammock shape. And it's going to have a very tall mast. And some rigging. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pen. And you do want to be very careful when it comes to using pencil and erasing. Erasing on watercolor ends up actually erasing the watercolor color. So you just want to draw very lightly and kind of decide that if you have little boo-boos, you know, sometimes they can just be incorporated into the design. Okay, so this is the main mast. These are some riggings. And then this is my boat. And don't worry about it being perfect. It's okay, we're just kind of getting the feel for it. Now I'm going to come back to this boat. I'm going to go ahead and get in some of the landscape that's back here in the background, and it's going to be pretty dark because my sky and my sun is so bright that everything that I see in relationship to it is going to be pretty dark. But black is probably a little bit too dark. So I'm going to use, we already have a little bit of yellow in here, which is good. I'm going to use some orange. And I think this is actually very dark blue, or what they say is purple, but it doesn't really seem like purple to me. So by having the orange in there, it's going to kind of balance with the orange of the sky. And I'm going to bring it down. That very dark blue. And I'm kind of purposefully trying to give these little light areas in here so that the elements of my boat stand out. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about that though. I might end up not doing it like that. Okay, so I'm picking up some orange and picking up some of the black, or the dark blue. I almost never use straight black watercolor. I feel like it's a little bit lifeless. And I'm bringing this dark color. In some ways it doesn't really even matter. If you want to put some blue in there, you can put some blue in there. It just needs to be dark. And bring this over to the other side. Again, I'm picking up some orange and then that really dark blue. I actually love how this orange is tipping the mountain a little bit. It makes it feel like the sun is so powerful that it is causing this vibrant reflection off of the mountains, which I'm finding really lovely. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some of the same very dark color and add it to my boat, and that same dark color, I'm going to be bringing in some reflections. And so in this case I'm taking that really dark blue and making these horizontal indications of my boat and the texture in the water. I'm going to continue with some of these very dark reflections. I'm going to work the front corners and start on the outside and come in. This is just another layer of darker values. Because as water kind of glints off of the water, then it'll create this kind of reflection. Sometimes those reflections go go right across the highlight. They tend to be bigger areas of light and dark. The closer they are to the viewer, the closer they are to you, they're bigger, and then as they get toward the horizon, they get thinner. And that's going to help give you a sense of depth and distance. You want to stop from time to time and step back, because you don't want to do too much and you don't want to do too little. You don't want to lose some of the brights that are underneath. So it definitely takes a little bit of practice in order to get the water to lay down just a little bit. Feel like I'm on the edge of making a mess. Okay, so we will also have some reflections of these beautiful mountains in the water, and so we can build those up. I'm actually going to add in some a little bit of our warm colors. So this is like supposed to be reflections in the water. So I purposefully left a little bit of a space between the land and my reflections, just so that you can hopefully tell that this is reflection and not just more of the land. And you're going to mimic the shape. So if this is a short part of the hill, it's a short part of a reflection, and then if it climbs higher, then your reflection will climb higher too. Now, this is actually our sun. This is a reflection of our sun. And then the land is going in front of the sun. So this is actually water in here. Sun, water, and then land. But when these elements get close to the sun is so bright it almost burns those elements out. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of the orange that we had and just give a little continuation of the land in front of the sun. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of our yellow and orange and blue. Oops, that's more than I meant. 2. And maybe a little bit more yellow. And just get this to lay into the water a bit. something like that. Now, if I want to, I can put in some clouds. And clouds are so cool because they can really add some interesting elements to your sky. So you can, typically clouds, you see the underside of the clouds. And as the clouds get closer to the horizon, they are actually further back in space, which means things that are further back in space appear smaller. So the clouds that are closest to the horizon are going to appear smaller. The ones that are further away from the horizon, which is higher on your painting, are going to appear bigger. Now, we sometimes draw clouds like little puffy cotton balls, but that's not all that realistic, and this is more of a realistic approach. So this time I'm going to take my orange and a little bit of my blue, which is going to give me a nice gray, and I'm going to start down here closest to my horizon, and I'm just going to put some lines. It's a little bit darker than I wanted it to be. Ooh, that's definitely darker than I wanted it to be. So mostly horizontal in nature. You can do like just little dashes and dots here and there. You can occasionally get a larger cloud that's in there, and okay, maybe there's one that's down here. The ones that are closer to the sun are smaller. Maybe there's one up here. Maybe. Usually clouds end up pretty flat on the bottom, and then they can have a top that's a little more poofy. So pretty flat on the bottom. Now I'm getting higher in the sky, right? So these are bigger. Flat on the bottom, poofier above. Flatter on the bottom, poofier. The nice thing about leaves and clouds, they're all kinds of different shapes. So, and you can kind of play around with them a little bit until you like how they're coming together. But maybe we have a couple more. Sometimes these end up looking really dark when they're next to such a bright sun. And if you'd like to, you can make that sun just a little bit dimmer. You can, I just added just not even hardly any yellow at all. But for the most part, I'm going to leave it white. All right, guys. Well, that's it. thanks so much for joining me.